Greetings and welcome. This is Stan the spokesman on a Sunday afternoon flowing into the evening. And I'm not in the studio today. I'm in the study once again. Just a simple place where I can think, pray, read, and I happen to have a microphone there, so I just kind of grab it and see what I can put forward on a Sunday afternoon. Then I'll go into my own Sunday night meeting where I think and plan and try to get ready for the week that is coming, and it's going to be a challenging week for me. A lot of opportunities, a lot of very difficult obstacles, and so I won't be able to handle that week alone, so I'd appreciate your thoughts and prayers, and I will seek the power of prayer and the power of the creator entrepreneur. Well, the title came from a couple stories that came to me just recently, like within the last few hours. Yesterday, I had a conversation with my friend Bob Ketchersid. Now, I'll make a long story very, very short. Bob and I worked together over 30 years ago at a large missionary radio station, one of the biggest stations in the Western Hemisphere. It was called Trans World Radio. And it was located on the small little island of Bonaire down in the southern Caribbean. You may have heard of Aruba and Curacao. There's Bonaire. And the reason it was chosen is it turns out that that particular place in the world is one of the best places for broadcasting. And even Radio Netherlands had a station there, and Trans World Radio was there. Other than that, it's rather a small little island that had about 9,000 people and 40,000 goats, and rather primitive. But we were there, and we worked together, both on the news and on the radio programming. We became very, very good friends and close friends, and we've kept in touch. Obviously, I left that kind of work and spent the last 25, 30 years not being a broadcaster formally, but being a business performance coach, but did a lot of broadcasting. Bob, after he left the work, he did exactly what he wanted to do. Now, remember, before he was with Trans World Radio, he had been one of the big guys, one of the big shots at WSB Radio in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, that was the station. You know, think about those days, and every big city has the radio station, and to work for that radio station was the honor of the industry. And it was WSB in Atlanta. Probably still is in many ways. And he gave up the job as news director and a program personality. He had interviewed all the pop and rock stars and many of the celebrities and famous people of that time, as well as putting on the news programs. He told me that he was a good friend of Martin Luther King Jr. and had interviewed him on several occasions, and sometimes he just would sound like, the people of the times he had done that work with. But he didn't return to WSB. Instead, he went and bought with a partner, a small little radio station in Athens, Tennessee. And that's where he has lived and worked as this man who turns on the radio station and is a small local broadcaster, and the community embraces him mightily. Bob's had some good luck. He's had some bad luck. A few years ago, we were deeply saddened when we heard that his good wife and wonderful woman, Judy, had stumbled just at the top of the steps in their home, fell down, hit her head, and later died. Incredible. So he suffered through that, and then through a battle of melanoma and cancer, and still deals with that every day. And so we keep in touch, and I simply said, "How you doing, Bob?" And he said, "Well, I'm doing okay." And I said, "Good, because, okay is oftentimes as good as it gets." And he says, "Stan, that's true with me." And then he went on to say, "But, I've got to take it careful because, with my condition, I really have to be careful. I go to the radio station, which was a small place, But he said, in our little town here, COVID has hit the town quite hard for a little town. He said, we've got a number of people in our church who have COVID, and so we've obviously got to be very careful about that. And he said, there's two friends, he said, well, acquaintances, but I was friendly with them, who've died of the COVID disease. And so he said, obviously with my condition, I mask up and I don't go out, and used to love to go out to restaurants after working a day with some of my friends and go to church at the Wednesday service, but I can't do any of those things. I'm pretty well locked in, except for the time where I do radio work, and some of that I even do from my home. So you got the deal there. Wow. So that's where he's at. And I said, boy, I'm fortunate to, here we are in Arizona, we've had the spike, but so far we're safe and sound and happy and good and grateful for that. Well, that's the first story. But COVID. Second story was this morning when the pastor told of a moment that he had that was kind of what he called a click moment, when something clicks and all of a sudden something becomes quite clear. He tells a story that a number of years ago, he had taken a study leave from his pastorate, and during that time he volunteered to work in an AIDS ward in the local hospital. And of course, those of you who know the age and stage, the AIDS outbreak, you had AIDS, you're going to die. And thousands did. He said, I was at the bedside of one of the AIDS patients, and he was not doing well, but then he said, I'd like to show you a postcard that I got. Okay, well, a postcard that he got? Well, the postcard happened to be a picture of a painting done by Matthias Grunewald. Means nothing to most of you. Matthias Grunewald was a painter in the 16th century in Germany. And at that time, there was a terrible syphilis epidemic that was going through the entire area, killing hundreds, thousands of people, just like we have today. And a number of the parish people who were serving the people who were suffering commissioned Matthias Grunewald to paint a picture of Jesus on the cross for the altar of their little place where they were trying to do ministry to these people. And in the postcard picture, what Grunewald did is he put on the picture of Jesus all of the sores that the people who were going through the syphilis epidemic suffered. So in effect, the picture of Jesus on the cross had Jesus as a fellow syphilis sufferer. And he said, I looked at that picture, and I saw what comfort that brought to this poor man who was probably going to die of AIDS. And he said, all of a sudden, it clicked. That's what this stuff is all about. That's the understanding, that the symbol of our faith is not a dollar sign. It's not cash. It's not couch. It's not being comfortable. It's a cross. I was struck by the entire story. I literally almost started to cry this morning. And then all of a sudden I heard the word. Do you think Jesus, if he were here today, would have the COVID? I'm sure he'd be working among the first-time helping, healing people. He'd certainly be involved in the epidemic, but maybe he would have gotten the COVID. And then I'm reminded that both theologically and maybe philosophically, but more important, experientially, is right today. Jesus is bearing with the people who bear the virus. He's bearing it with them. He cares so much for them, he is bearing it with them. In effect, I think the answer to my question is, does Jesus have COVID? I think he probably does. And he will get through it, and he will help many others get through it too. Wow, that's what hit me today. And it encouraged me to be braver and be more helpful. I remember at that same time, one time when I was back in Minneapolis, one of my friends said that one of his friends was dying of AIDS, and he said, "Would you go with me to the hospital? Because I don't know what to do." So I went with him, and the man was there, and he was obviously in a very bad condition. And so I simply put my hand on his forehead and held his hand and prayed. And my friend got all panicky. And afterwards he said, "But now you might get AIDS." And I smiled and said, "I don't think so. It really isn't passed on that way." "But you never know." And I said, "Then I will get AIDS." But that's what I was going to do. So that's all a part of my story that brings me to this Sunday afternoon. And I hope the two stories are helpful to you. Maybe it'll help you know what to do. Maybe it'll be a little bit of that click time for you as it was for me. Greater appreciation of what we're called to do. Greater appreciation for those who suffer. Like Bob said, one of those guys, it was a bad death. It was bad. And many times it is. And so there we are, and that's the world we live in, and how are we called to live with this kind of stuff going on? I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll come back and finish up. I'm Stan Houston, Stan the spokesman, and this is Random Thoughts for a Sunday evening.
He careth for you. He careth for you. When the worries and cares of your life seem to block out the rays of his light, never forget, never lose sight, for he careth for you, for he careth for you.
Well, one of the things I have to do this week is, many of you know that I have been leader for around 3 years for the Christian Entrepreneur Network, and we've made a great deal of progress, and we have, I think, helped lots of people. However, things did not go as we planned. Both people and plans and programs did not work out as we planned. And so I have taken that organization and I have shut that organization down. And in doing so, we're going to start something quite new, but very similar. It's called now the Institute for the Study, Teaching, and Promotion of Christian Entrepreneurship, because it's vital in today's world that men and women of faith in the marketplace, that we have men and women in the marketplace of faith, and they know how to do it well and make their marks, and we want to help people do just that. We're going to have a very different view of how we will do it. I will no longer seek to try and make any money or living from it, which was part of the plan. It now will be totally devoted to helping those who can help us by bringing all kinds of wisdom, insight, and truth to all entrepreneurs and Christian entrepreneurs around the world. And then at the same time, raise a few funds to help worthy entrepreneurs around the world. Because you understand that in many parts of the world, if you're a Christian, your career and life opportunities are very closed down, and the way you make it is you have your own business, your own career, your own opportunity, because you are fully discriminated against in the systems of those countries. So that's kind of our mission coming forward. So I have to make a whole lot of changes. It's very scary, very frightening in many ways, but we will get through it, and we believe that what we will create after this will be even better than what we had, that we'll look back and say, those were the worst of times, but they landed up also being the best of times. And I'm believing that perhaps that can happen. So, that's what we're about. Also, we're going to introduce to you the 7 things that are vital for everybody right now, because everybody, I mean everybody, including you, are going to have to realize that you have to do a start over and a startup mode. And we figured out some ways for you to do just that. Many businesses are going to fail. Still, they're failing all the time. Many careers, many opportunities, things are changing all over the place. And you're going to have to learn how to deal with that disorder. And it's going to be a tough time. Even when the disease, quote, is vaccine proof, the economic and social and stuff of life and business will never be quite the same. And we're going to have to deal with it. And I want you to deal with it and deal with it well. And so that's part of my call and commission. And I look forward to helping you do that. We'll be starting this week talking about, hey, stop. Yep, you got stopped. You stumbled. You got smashed. Now what do you do? How do you start over? And we think we can be very helpful. Thank you for your time. I've got lots to do yet tonight, and then I've got lots to pray for family and friends, and I've got a great deal in the midst of all the adversity of our times, much to be thankful for, and perhaps so do you. Would Jesus have had COVID? I think he might have, because right now, I think he does. All the best and blessings to you. I'm Stan the spokesman. Till next time, bye for now.